Hello, MYP1. So, your forces test, just to quickly go through it. So in question one, you've got a spring and a ball with the ball attached to the spring hanging off a ceiling. So there is, of course, going to be a force pulling down, which is the weight. So a force due to gravity. Force due to gravity. And it asks which arrow shows the direction of the force of the ball. So you should have ticked the downwards one. If you got that right and you're marking someone else's paper, just circle that one mark. Okay. For future reference in the paper, if it's say worth 2 marks and they don't get both of them, cross the 2 off and write how many they got. Okay, but if it was a 2-mark question and they got 2 marks, just circle the 2 marks. Does that make sense? Next question. Which arrow shows the direction of the force pulling on the spring? Tick the correct box. So the spring is pulling upwards. The ball isn't, well, it's still attached, and the spring is holding the ball up essentially, which is why the spring is getting stretched. Next question, question B. The diagram shows 3 metal balls attached to identical springs, so very similar. Which ball is the heaviest? Well, this spring has been stretched longer, so this force must be greater than the force of A or C. So the weight of B must be bigger, so it must be the heaviest. Explain your answer. It hangs down the most, or you could have said the spring is the most stretched, or you could have said the spring is longer. You could have said the spring is longest, or the spring is the widest apart. As long as you've described the fact that B has a longer spring and B is further down than A or C, you should get the explanation mark here. You don't need all 3 of these, you just need 1. So whenever you see an or in this test, that means you could have had 1 of them for 1 mark. If you put all 3 down, that doesn't mean you get 3 marks. It'd be very nice if tests worked like that, but sadly they don't. Next question, which cube is the heaviest? Write the letter. So in this diagram, we can see that T has been forced down a lot shorter than, say, S or R. So the force, again, due to gravity of T is that much bigger. So T should be answer. And again, very similar to the previous question, the spring was pushed down the most, or the spring was squashed the most, or something along those lines. Next question. So we've got pan X and pan Y, and you want them to stay the same, so the scale's balanced like this, okay? You don't want the scales tipping to one side, like so. So what masses would allow them to balance? So these, we could have had 1 and 1 in X and say the 2 in the Y. You could have had 1 and 1 in Y, you could have had 4 and 1 in X and 5 in Y. So one of these 2 options. The Y you can only put 1 mass, and in the X you can put 2. So there were 2 options, 1 and 1 in the X, or 4 and 1 in the X, and then correspondingly 2 in the Y and 5 in the Y. Yeah, you of course can't put 1 and 1 in X and 5 in Y. That doesn't make sense. So it does have to be the matching pairs. So 1 and 1 and then 2 in the Y, or 4 and 1 in the X and 5 in the Y. So new question. Ellie removes all the weights. So all of those previous weights are removed. She puts a cup on pan X and nothing on pan Y. So it would look like this. On the X, there's going to be a cup, and there's going to be nothing on the Y. So of course Y moves up. okay, because there's nothing on the y, so x is going to pull y upwards. Here you can see a diagram. So there's 3 newtons in total on the y, and it's balanced. So therefore, the cup must weigh 3. How much do the cup and water weigh? Again, this is balanced, as you can see, because it's a flat, straight line. It's not slanted that way or that way. So you just had to total these up, which equals 8. So the cup and water must also weigh 8. And therefore, given that you know the weight of the cup is 3, you can work out that the water must equal 5. Because the weight of the cup and the water is 8, and the weight of just the cup alone is 3. Moving on, what's the new reading on the measuring cylinder? 60, so you just had to read it from the diagram. What is the volume of the ball itself? Well, it went from 50 to 60, so it must be 10. Or you could have done it as a mathematical 16 minus 50 equals 10. Next question. Which object is the heaviest? So this is a skill of reading a table. So that is the heaviest. Look along there, and it's the lead weight. Which object takes up the most space? Again, this is reading a table. So which of these numbers of the volume is the biggest? And we can see that it's this 50, so therefore the wood puzzle, reading backwards along the table, the wood puzzle must take up the most space. Next question. A bike is made of aluminium. Give one reason for why is it made out of aluminium, why it's suitable for the frame. You could have said it has a low density, or it's very light, or in terms of chemistry, aluminium does not rust. Okay, it does not rust. Only iron rusts. It's the only element that can rust. Other elements can corrode, but you don't say that they rust. Next question. A force between the tyres and the road stops the bike skidding. What's the name of the force? It is friction. While friction will slow you down, it's also very useful because it gives you grip. Okay. Question 4. Sally pulls a sledge in the snow. Draw an arrow on the rope. I'm going to highlight a little bit there. Draw an arrow on the rope to show the direction of the force of the rope on the sledge. So on the rope there should be an arrow, which is, you can see in green as R there. Draw an arrow to show the direction of the force due to gravity. So that's this one, a big arrow with G next to it. Force F is friction. Friction is less on snow than on concrete. Give the reason for this. Snow is more slippery. Or you could have also said snow is smoother. You could have also said the opposite. So you said concrete is rough, or concrete is less smooth. You couldn't have just said snow is soft and concrete is hard. Those wouldn't get you the mark. Next question. Give the reason why the ribbon stays at point X. So you needed to say the forces are balanced. You could have also said forces are equal or the same. You could have also said, or forces are both 1,000 newtons, or they have the same pull force, or they pull equally as hard. So a few answers there that you could have put. Next question. Later the ribbon was to the left of point X as shown below. Why did the ribbon move towards the left? So why is it over this side? And it must be Team A pulled harder than Team B. You could have also said Team A or Team A pulled more, or they pulled harder. Next question. What is the force of the tree on the rope? 1,200 newtons, because the tree is not moving and neither are they, or not accelerating. The pupils did not slip because there is a force between their shoes. That is friction. Next question. So you had to match, and it was very important. Some of you didn't read that. Draw only 3 lines. So the weight of the buggy goes to B. The force pulling the buggy along is A. And the friction between the skis and the snow is C. So C is pulling back as it moves forward. C is going to get bigger. A is the force pulling forward, and B is force due to gravity. D is the force upwards from the snow. A scientist travelled 80 kilometers each day in the buggy. How many kilometers did he do in 10 days? Simple maths question. Times it by 10. So that should be 800 kilometers. The buggy sank deeper in the snow at the start of the journey, so there was a difference. This is probably because lots of the food had been eaten. So why did it sink deeper at the start? Use the table to help you. It weighed more. You could have also said, or the mass was greater. Is greater because this is in kilograms, you'll see, which is a mass, not a force. But bigger mass creates a bigger force due to gravity, so the mass is greater. You could have also said it weighed less at the end, or it weighed less at the end. Next question. Why are the skis better than wheels for traveling on snow? They spread out the weight. You could have also said, or they have a bigger area, or they can slide, or they can slide easily. Okay. Next question. How does a bigger sail help the buggy go faster? There is a bigger surface. You could have said, or there is a bigger force, or it catches more air. Suggest 2 things Joe must do to make his test fair. You should have said same cardboard, same width, same length, same thickness, or loaded in the middle, or same height of blocks, or same distance between the blocks, or measure in the same place. Any one of those. Pause the video if you need to read those again. Basically, you're trying to keep, these are control variables. Okay.